Procedural Fairness Letter or PFL is the end of the world. IRCC issues Procedural Fairness Letter just before refusing your application. Procedural Fairness Letter will have some of the grave consequences, and PFL is the only last opportunity for you to defend your case. These are some of the arguments that I hear most often than not in this industry, and as somebody who specializes in responding to procedural fairness letters, and probably we are the only one that specializes in doing so for these many years, I thought it's my responsibility to let you know realistically from my experience what it is, things to keep in mind, and some of the industry hearsays that you can potentially avoid. Okay, first thing first, not all procedural fairness letters lead to inadmissibility or ban, period. Not all procedural fairness letters mean that your case are going to be refused. This is the gross misinformation or misunderstanding. The very principle of procedural fairness states that when the officer has some concerns which needs clarification, he or she has the right or the responsibility to send you a letter which is called a PFL, and then it's your job to respond to that letter to the satisfaction of the officer so that he or she can continue processing that application. Okay, now let's say somebody sends you a PFL, gives you 30 days of time, which means she needs some explanations from you. You respond to the PFL within a couple of lines, within the few hours of receiving the PFL, hopefully thinking that, well, it will pass through. When somebody has given you 30 days of time for a reason, utilize that. She needs to hear more from you. So those kind of a haste response may potentially lead to an application refusal, right? So there is no doubt about that. But when you are responding to the PFL correctly, accurately, legally, with legal precedent, submission, it's not the end of the world. It's not something that the officer is sending you just before refusing your application. In fact, as an organization or as a consultant who has been working on this exclusively for a fairly long period of time, I could affirm that my success rate still stands at 99%. And that's simply because I don't take a case where I think there is anything fraudulent involved. Now, it's the end of the world. It's the end of at least your Canadian journey if you have provided something fraudulent bank statement, fraudulent IELTS, marriage certificate, whatever, anything fake. If you put that on record, or your agent or consultant or a lawyer has put that into record, either knowingly or unknowingly, you will be in problem. That's probably the end of your Canadian journey, period. But other than that, even the previous visa refusals, etc., could be explained and could be explained with successes. So PFL is not the end of the world. The other thing is that it is the last letter that you would receive. IRCC is not going to give you a second chance, etc. Not true. Well, in most cases, at least from my experience, that's the end of the communication or one-sided communication from IRCC. Because once you respond to the PFL correctly, accurately, completely, comprehensively, most likely you will get a decision. At least that's what I see from my practice, because I make a close-ended submission. Okay, but there have been some cases where the officer thought, well, an interview is required, part of the process, and I was very happy about it. That went successfully too. There have been some cases where the officer was kind enough to speak to me directly while reviewing my submission. I was super happy about it. That was a nice officer from IRCC Mississauga, CPC Mississauga, who ended up approving that application. So, and also there have been some cases where the officers have taken my permission to issue another procedural fairness letter because she had some new concerns. So all these prove that their intention is not really to refuse your application or to give you a decision which is unfair. And when I say I don't want to say that I have some connections and whatever. I do not. Any consultant who is working on these kind of files would receive the similar treatment if the response is good, if the response is legal, right? So officer is not there to reject your application, and also this is not probably the last letter that you would receive. The reason we provide complete legal representation while responding to the PFL is because I want to ensure that I remain available as a representative on file to be able to answer any forthcoming questions that IRCC has or will have, right? So this is also not the last letter. You may receive yet another procedural fairness letter for the very same application, could be for a different reason, could be for a reason or an evidence which is discovered at a subsequent stage. And most importantly, guys, you have to keep in mind, not all procedural fairness letters lead to a ban or an inadmissibility, period. Yes, a PFL is serious. Yes, you need to take it seriously. Yes, if there's giving you 30 days, Take your time, make a comprehensive submission. And I cannot stress it enough how important it is to be unique and comprehensive submission. If you think an AI can help you with the PFL response, do not forget the XYZ is also thinking on the same line, and then your response and the response of XYZ will have the same pattern, probably same words, same sentences. It creates duplication, creates problem. Okay, so my only advice in this video is that every situation is unique, and therefore take your situation in a unique way and try to get a solution out of that. It's not that my cousin's case got approved, mine will be get approved, or my friends got approved, why I got a PFL, things like that. Those things does not really hold any ground any longer, at least. So a professional assistance is most likely required to understand how it works, what to include, what not to include, understand the possible consequences of including a specific fact or putting a specific fact on record in your procedural fairness letter submission. And we as an organization, we specialize in responding to the PFL. So if you need our assistance with the procedural fairness letter response and complete legal representation, more than welcome to hop into our website, nuvonation.ca, book a relevant professional consultation. I'll be happy to assist you.